Canva is a tool used by thousands of people in the online course industry. Their templates provide many bloggers and content creators with a way to easily create graphics for use within their businesses. Today, I'm joined by Brenda Cadman, who is a verified global Canva expert and owner of Bon Accord Creative, a WordPress development company based in Prince Edward Island, Canada. As an entrepreneur for more than 20 years, Brenda understands the importance of consistency in building a brand. As a Canva expert, she's taught thousands of small business owners how to use Canva more effectively and efficiently. In particular, she loves to help business owners tame their hot mess Canva accounts by creating an organisational system that ensures they can spend less time in Canva and more time doing what they love. In this episode, we will discuss a few Canva Pro features. If you aren't using Canva Pro, you can use the affiliate link veritysongon.com/Canva. That's veritysongon.com/Canva to get a free 30 days of Canva Pro on me. But this isn't a sales episode. We've got a show packed full of tips and tricks that you can take advantage of, even if you're still working the free plan of Canva. Let's jump into the episode. Welcome to Bloggers Creating Courses, the podcast which will take you behind the scenes of creating an online course. I'm your host, Verity Songon, founder and education consultant at veritysongon.com. I'm so excited to help you create an online course that you are proud of and to be part of your journey to scale your business as an online course creator. Let's get into the episode. Brenda, thank you so much for being on the episode today. I'm really excited for this episode. We're going to be talking all things Canva, and anyone who knows me knows that I'm obsessed with Canva, but I feel like your obsession with Canva takes it to its whole new level. So I am going to get you to, if you could introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what it is you do, tell us all that good stuff about you.
Sure. And you're right. I probably am on a whole other level, which, I happily embrace, and I try to convert as many people to my side of things as I possibly can. So I am a verified global Canva expert. I'm one of only 25 right now in the world, which is pretty cool.
It's amazing.
But I have been in business for over 22 years, and most of that has been spent running a website development company. I still run that. It's definitely been downscaled in terms of service offerings, because as much as I might like to do 3 million things at the same time, it's just not possible to give it your full attention to all the things all the time, not without, wanting to absolutely collapse at the end of the day. So that's been downscaled, but it's allowed me to focus a lot more of my time on helping small business owners, especially course creators and service providers, to figure out how to use Canva more effectively and efficiently in their business.
I love that. Now, I need to ask you straight up, I would need to unpick and unpack being a Canva expert. First of all, that's amazing. There's only 25 of you in the world, which is incredible. But can you please explain this whole Canva expert? Because you're not a self-declared Canva expert. This
No.
is something that Canva have actually accoladed you with. So how do you even start going about becoming a Canva expert? We need to unpack this.
It is a very common question. So Canva has had a couple of different iterations of these more formalized programs. For the most part, they are not something that you apply to do or study to do. They are typically more invite only. The experts program is invite only at this point. Perhaps at some point in the future, they'll have some sort of application process or nomination process. But at this point, it was specifically 25 of us that were chosen by various Canva community managers based on the kinds of content that we're putting out, the education that we do. We've all 25 of us, we have different areas of specialty and we teach in different ways, but we've all, created some sort of visibility or at least a strong body of content and education behind us consistently. And it's right now it is just invite only. But the other thing we're really hoping to see in the future, and if anybody from Canva is listening, we really want this. I would love to see a certification program of some kind. That's something a lot of people are interested in because they do want to, be able to go through a formalized process of learning the things they need to learn and getting some sort of certification so that when they do tell people that they can help them with their Canva design needs or whatever that looks like, that they've got some sort of stamp of approval. But at this point, there isn't anything formalized. It's a wait and see kind of thing right now.
It'd be exciting though, because I think it's kind of the way to go. I mean, Google have got their program for that type of thing. You've got Microsoft
Microsoft,
and
Adobe. Yeah.
exactly. So it seems to be the way that a lot of these bigger companies are shifting. So watch this space. You never know. Maybe in a year, 2 years, we'll be having this conversation that
If
actually
I have
it's
my
up and
way.
running. Who knows? Who knows? But
Yeah.
that is wow. It blows my mind that there's only 25 people in the world who have got this.
Well, and to be fair, I'm sure there are hundreds of others who would be great candidates for it as well. This is just the first iteration of it. We
Sure.
are the first 25. It was just oh gosh, the months are blurring together, but I think it might have been March or April that it was formalized. And I know they're going to be reassessing it periodically, maybe every 6 months or something. So there will be more that are added, but I will always be one of the first 25, which is it's something I'm quite proud of.
Definitely. I think it's an amazing accolade to have next to your name. But having that kind of expertise is, we're going to tap into your expertise, but we're not quite looking at that level of Canva use for today's episode. What we're doing is we're taking it right back to our audience. And for people who have maybe either just started with Canva, or, you know, they've used Canva for some different bits and pieces, but are really wondering how they can take their graphics forward. So the first thing I want to ask you is probably quite a big question as to how can we make our Canva graphics less generic and less amateurish? Because I think sometimes people, you know, they go and they choose their templates, which is great. That's what Canva's set up for, is to use your templates and what have you. But then I talk to people and they feel a little bit disempowered afterwards, because they're like, oh, I worked really hard on this template and adjusting it, but actually it looks just like theirs over there, just like change the colors and maybe the picture. So how can we make our graphics less generic and less amateurish looking?
Well, you're off to the right footing by choosing a template. I think the reality is that most of the people who are using Canva are not designers, and Canva was created for those who don't have design experience to be able to design, beautiful things. But, if you don't have that kind of design expertise, you are going to want to start with some sort of design or template that was created by a designer who has the expertise to be able to determine things like hierarchy and white space and all of these different things that go into creating a design that feels balanced and looks professional. But I think that choosing the right template is important. And if you are just choosing one of the first things that comes up in the search results, chances are a whole lot of other people are going to be doing the same thing as well. And then you end up with something that, even if you've changed the colors a little bit, still looks very cookie cutter. It's easy to pick them out on Instagram. You've seen templates before. You've probably used some of the same templates. So I think sometimes going into the template library and digging a little bit deeper, really taking advantage of those search terms that you can use. They have filtering options to be able to sort by design style, by different kinds of aesthetics, and try to whittle it down a little bit more to maybe use something that hasn't been as frequently used, but also making sure that you are choosing something from the get-go that really aligns with your design style. If you are trying to choose something that doesn't really fit your brand style, your brand personality, and you're having to, either you are customizing it and it just doesn't fit for your brand, or if you're pulling out all the elements that don't fit, then it ends up looking very plain and it's not going to have the look and feel that you were attracted to in that template in the first place. So I think starting with templates is smart, but try to use one that maybe is not as commonly used. Make sure you're using one that actually does align with your brand style. And then it comes to making sure that you have your Canva brand kit set up and that you are consistently using that brand kit when you are customizing the templates and bringing in your own imagery and your own kind of look and feel on things. And it takes a little bit of practice, but I think if you consistently apply those visual brand assets to the right templates, you're going to end up with something that you're a lot happier with. And don't forget that you have a lot of template options outside of Canva as well. There are so many template memberships, template shops, template packages that have been created by other designers that maybe aren't being as heavily used as the ones that Canva provides as part of their subscription.
That's brilliant advice there. I love that. And you mentioned about the brand kit, which we'll come on to in a few minutes, because I'm really excited to talk about the brand kit. It's one of my favorite features of Canva. But what I want to talk about just quickly is pick up on what you were saying about images there, because I was listening to a podcast recently where they were saying that you can fall into a trap of picking images that kind of everybody is using. So again, do you have any advice around people picking images that doesn't end up looking like the images that everybody is using, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, if you can do your own brand photo shoot, that's fantastic, because nobody else is going to have that. But that obviously can be cost prohibitive for a lot of business owners, particularly when they're starting out. So I do think styled stock photography definitely has a place. But again, same sort of thing in Canva. If you have access to that photo library, so does everybody else. So you want to make sure that you're maybe not choosing the first few examples that come up in the search results. I do like to use other paid for styled stock photos. Again, though, a lot of people have access to those. So you are going to see other examples of those images out in the wild. But the great thing about using a styled stock website is that you can really get a family of photos that really feel like they all fit together, because that's the other way that sometimes your graphics can end up feeling kind of amateurish and clunky, is if you're using a whole lot of different but a whole lot of different styles of photography. They don't feel cohesive. They don't feel like they're part of the same family. They don't feel like they go together, and that adds a sense of visual clutter. So if you go to one of these paid sources, while it does cost a little bit, you are going to be ensured that you are getting imagery that was shot by the same photographer, that it has the same sort of lighting, the same sort of color palettes. They often will do a whole set of images, different shots of the same scene or different complementary shots, so that they all work together and it just feels really cohesive across your website and across your various marketing materials that you're creating in Canva. So I think that doing a little more research and trying to find something that maybe not everybody is using. There's tons of styled stock photo websites out there as well. And again, memberships. And a lot of them actually offer photos and Canva templates. So you can kind of get a 2-for-1 if you find the right one to work with.
I think that's so smart what you're saying about just have a shop around and have a look around and really pull your own resources. I know one of the things that I've got in my Google Drive is it's the most unorganized folder ever, but it's because what I do is I will be on Unsplash and I'll be on Pixabay or Canva, like whatever it is, and I'll think, oh, that photo is, I love that, I love the coloring, I love the lighting, it works with my brand, I don't need it at the moment. But then what I'll do is I'll download it, I'll stick it in that Google Drive folder, and then I'll come back to it later on, and then I'll start organizing it out. But I know that I've got a bit of a bank that I'm building up of photos. So I love what you're saying about just have a look around and see what's there.
Well, and you can go through Canva's photos as well, and you can star photos that you might want to refer
Yes.
to later, so that you can come back to them, because it can be hard to find them again later on. The other thing I know that they're doing, and I believe it's already rolled out or in the process of rolling out, is improved recommendations. When you do choose an image, you'll see that there's magic recommendations, and it it's a handy feature to have, but I think they're improving it further so that the recommendations that are being provided when you choose an image are all far more similar in their style, not just the contents of it, but also the actual visual style of it, so that you may be able to find families of images more easily inside of Canva as well. But you definitely want to have a little bit of a poke around. At the same time, you don't want to spend a ton of time doing that, because we have a lot to do, and that's not necessarily the best use of your time. But this sounds like a perfect project for a assistant of some form.
Absolutely. Or if you've got, maybe if you're thinking, yeah, I do want to get a bit more serious about my graphics, a bit more serious about my Canva, even just taking that 10 minutes to just start scrolling and, like you said, starring different photos. So you're
Yeah.
just beginning to make that little collection up. And I actually only found out very recently that I could do that with Canva and start starring photos. And I was there trying to save all these links, but there was a way simpler way to do it. And I don't know why it took me so long to figure out what the little star was in the corner. I was clearly having a bit of a crazy while not figuring that out there. But I think that then leads us on really nicely to my next question that I've got for you about organising Canva. Mm-hmm. And after our last conversation, because we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago about Canva, and I felt so guilty admitting to you that my Canva was in, oh gosh, it was just stuff everywhere. I had folders, but half of them were empty because they were well-intentioned. I sat down yesterday and my Canva is organised because I knew that I had to turn up to this. It was just me as an individual. I knew that I had to turn up to this podcast recording and be able to hand on heart say, yes, my Canva is now organised. Probably not to the same degree of a lot of other people's, but it is organised enough for me. So what tips do you have for organising your Canva graphics? Because it's so easy to go in, you create your Instagram post, you create your Twitter one, you do your blog banner, and before you know it, you've just got stuff everywhere. So talk to me a little bit about that.
But doesn't it feel better knowing that when you go in, you'll be able to actually find the things that you're looking for without having to wade through tons and tons of garbage?
Oh, 100%, because I went into something late last night, actually, to create another Instagram graphic. And I was like, I just need to press make a copy of this one because I've got my templates that I like to use. So all I had to do was go into my Instagram folder. I clicked make a copy, copied it across, and then all I had to do was edit it. And I was like, I'm not scrolling for about 10 minutes trying to find the one that I wanted. Yeah.
Exactly. And there's a lot of freedom that comes with it. And I know for a lot of people, they know that this is something they need to do. And the actual steps to take are not complicated. And I'll walk you through what the 5 steps are that I always recommend for getting organized in Canva. But I think the bigger challenge is that if you've been using Canva for some time, you likely already have a lot of designs and images in there. And there's this voice in the back of your head that is reminding you just how much time it's going to take to actually execute on those steps to go through. But once it's done, it's just a matter of maintenance, and it just is so much easier going forward. And I highly recommend carving out the time, get it done. I promise there's a real sense of freedom on the other side of it, knowing that not just freedom, but you're going to claw a lot of time back, because you're not going to be spending a ton of time scrolling and searching and trying to find that one design that you know you did 2 months ago, and it ends up taking you longer to find it than it would to just recreate it altogether. So the 5-step framework that I normally recommend is, first off, you want to go through and delete and archive anything that you don't need to have. So we all have designs that we made a copy of something planning to do something with it, and then we never did anything with it, and that copy's still sitting there. Or we made a duplicate of a template that we got from a membership and then just didn't use it. And there's all this clutter in there. So the same way that you would if you were tackling a physical filing cabinet, you need to create a couple of piles. You're going to have a keep pile, you're going to have a trash pile, and you're going to have I like to recommend an archive pile for archive or reference for things that you aren't certain that you need to delete, but you know that you're not really using now. And once you start deleting out all the stuff that you don't need, and then just moving all the things that you might need to reference into an archive folder, then what you're left with, you can actually process. And then you go to step 2, which is reviewing what's left and renaming everything. Because again, when we create copies of things, there's all these files called copy of, or there's presentation version 1, version 2, version 3. We don't know.
That's not just me then.
It is not just you. Or you have a presentation that looks identical because it mostly is, but maybe there's 3 different versions of it because you gave that presentation to 3 different associations. So going through and renaming them so that they are, not only are they descriptive, but they also contain keywords in them, so that if you need to search for them in Canva's search bar, which is still often the fastest way to find a design, that you can find them in the results. So you're reviewing, you're renaming, and then going through that process, you have a sense of the inventory that you have left, and you can start planning what your folders will be. Because if you are not using custom folders inside of the Your Projects area of Canva, you are wasting a lot of time. So plan your folders, and then you're going to create those folders, and then you're going to batch move your designs into those folders. And then ultimately, when you go to that Your Projects tab in your Canva account, you should have a bunch of primary top level folders that each probably contain some subfolders and nothing else on there. So it's easy to just drill down and find specifically what you're looking for. You don't have this whole mess of designs to go through.
I think that is gold, absolute gold there, because yes, I am that person that I will create so many copies and then I end up with something that says copy of at least 5 times before it gets down to the actual title of what it is, which is something which is completely unrelated because I've reused the graphic so many times.
Yeah.
And as you said, just having that time to be able to say, yes, that's the Instagram graphic I want to use again. That's the template, right? Where have I got that saved? You know, we're all busy. We're, you know, our businesses keep us busy all the time. Some of us are mums, some of us are pet mums, you know, whatever it is that we've got going on. Very few people have got the time to be hunting around. And also I find by the time you've hunted for the template that you even wanted, you've forgotten what, if anyone's like me anyway, I've done that so many times where I've spent so long searching for a template and I'm like, I know that I've got the ideal one here, but then I'm like, what was I even creating
Yeah.
in the first place? I've lost my train of thought completely. Either that or you end up getting out of that creative mindset because you're just irritated with yourself at your own disorganization if you're anything like me.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like you said, find that time and it'll save you so much time down there. You can make a cup of tea and just get on with it. And yeah, absolute
It's
gold.
and it's not difficult work, it's just grunt work. It's the stuff we don't want to do. It's the thing that is very easy to procrastinate on because it's not urgent. But it is important because you're going to waste a lot more time than the time it's going to take to just sit down and do it. So I know that in theory it sounds simple to just sit down and follow the steps. I do recognize that it takes more time, it takes emotional and mental effort to actually do it. So break it down. You don't have to do it all in one sitting. Then break it down into chunks, into 20-minute chunks over a couple of weeks. Just have some sort of progress towards it so that you will be able to get to the point where you're not spending so much time chasing down designs and images, and your workflow is just going to be a lot easier going forward.
Absolutely. It's about making time to make more time, I suppose, later
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
on, isn't it? Yeah. And like you said, it's sometimes it's chiseling away at the big project as opposed to just seeing the big project, which I think is really important because I think so often people put off tasks such as organizing a Canva file because they think, well, it's going to take me hours and hours and hours. Well, just do a 10-minute chunk and then next week do another 10 minutes. And if you then start organizing as you go, you're not adding to the chaos pile, as it were. Wow, that
Yeah.
was a rabbit
I
hole.
mean, even to start with, if you just want to be more organized moving forward, I mean, you could select all of the designs, move them into a couple of temporary holding folders that are labeled to organize, and just start with a clean slate, at least moving forward, and then slowly chip away at them. Now, there are some technical limitations. You can only have 200 items in a folder, so you might end up having temporary folder 1, temporary folder 2, and have a whole bunch of chunks that way. But there are ways that you can break it down so that visually it does not feel so overwhelming. And I just don't want people feeling like they can't move ahead because it just feels like too much. And I know the overwhelm is real. And if you have been using Canva for a lot of years, I know there are people with thousands of designs, and that is a lot to go through. But there might be 25% of them that you don't even need to have. And I think, there's some fun in deleting the old stuff. I would recommend keeping some screenshots of some old stuff that you've created just for memorabilia nostalgia purposes, because it is fun to look back on the stuff you did 5 or 10 years ago. But clearing that deck so that you can actually feel lighter when you go in to create stuff in the future, I think is probably going to have a positive impact, not just on your mindset, but probably on the kind of stuff that you're able to create as well.
Absolutely. I want to move on to talking about brand kits next. You mentioned
Hmm.
the brand kit earlier, and I have to say, I love the brand kit. I know that it's a Canva Pro feature; it's not available on
Correct.
the free plan, but the brand kit was one of the things which persuaded me to actually trial Pro, and I have not looked back since. So, please, can you tell us about the brand kit? So, what are they, and how can they benefit Canva users when they're creating their graphics in Canva?
So you are correct. It is only a pro feature, but I think it is the main reason that a lot of people upgrade now. One of the other reasons, just to tie us from organization to this, um, you used to only be able to have unlimited folders on a Canva Pro plan, but Canva is rolling out an update where you'll have unlimited folders on the free plan as well. So that's great. That's no longer going to be a reason necessarily to upgrade to Pro, but the brand kit is what is going to allow you to take those templates and to consistently apply your own visual branding so that you end up with something that feels unique, that feels consistent, that is immediately recognizable as belonging to your brand. It is a real shortcut to being able to do that. So, if you've ever been on your Canva account and seen on the left hand side an option under tools that says brand kit, maybe you've never set one up before, your visual brand kit in general is going to include various other components as well. It's going to include your imagery and your patterns you use and all these things. The formal brand kit in Canva, though, includes your logos, your color palette, and your fonts. And I think it's important to set those because it just is a quick way of being able to grab those colors, the very specific colors, every single time. If you have a shade of blue in your color palette for your brand, you want to make sure that you're using that exact shade of blue on every single graphic that you're creating, not just some sort of approximation. And you don't want to have to sit down and try to find that hex color code every single time that you are trying to select a color. So it's a real shortcut to being able to do that. And again, it's saving a lot of time because if you know you have every version of your logo in that brand kit, you're not having to chase it down on your computer every time that you need it or go looking through, your uploads folder to find it. And then your fonts are such an important part of creating recognition of your brand. You will, if you're only on the free plan, you're not able to choose from the whole set of fonts that Canva provides, but you're also not able to upload any custom fonts. And if you are using some sort of font that you can't get on Canva, you need to be uploading that into your account to make sure that you've got that consistency. Because what I see happens otherwise is folks will have a set of fonts and colors that they're using on their website, and then they choose something completely different for their Instagram graphics or for whatever other social images they're creating. And it's really jarring because it doesn't fit. You might, if you're promoting your product or service on social media and it has a particular look and feel, and then you send them to your website and it looks completely different, there's going to be a lot of people wondering if they're in the right place. So that consistency is incredibly important. And that brand kit is not only going to ensure that you have that, it's also going to make the whole process of designing a lot easier. And you're going to result in stuff that looks far more professional and a lot less amateur.
Definitely. And the thing that I want to pick up on what you said as well is about saving the time. I found that
Mm-hmm.
since getting the brand kit set up for me, I find it so much easier because at no point am I scrolling through this endless list of or it feels like an endless list of fonts trying to find the font that I use, because I all I need to do is press add a heading and it automatically comes up in my in the font that I use for headings, and
Yeah.
I've got set to that, and it saves me so much time. And again, what you said about the hex colors, because I've got a whole variety of colors. I've got my main colors, but then I've got a few other colors that I use depending on different when we're trying, different variations of those colors. So much easier, as you said, to just have that. I can just click on the colors. I don't have to go to the notebook that I used to have my hex colors written down in or anything like that. They're just there, and it makes my life so much easier when I'm trying to whack together a graphic really, really quickly.
And it's not saving enormous chunks of time, but there's this cumulative effect of all the little bits of time that you save. But the impact that has, I think, just on your mindset while you're working on it as well. You're not feeling frustrated. You don't feel like you've got all these tiny little stumbling blocks that are being put in front of you that can stall the whole process and have you falling out of some sort of flow state. So I think any of these little things that we can do to remove friction throughout the process of designing in Canva is an important component and worth spending the time to do.
Completely agree with you there. I completely agree. So before we wrap up, I've just thought of a question though that I do want to ask you. So I'm putting you on the spot a little bit
Oh,
here. But
all right.
okay, so here it is. What is your favorite Canva feature and why?
I think given how much time I just spent talking about the folders and organization, that is my sweet spot. One of my early businesses, most of it has been spent in website development, but I did work as a professional organizer for a period of time. And my specialty was filing cabinets and taming paper piles, working with business owners, working with professionals, lawyers, doctors. So I feel like it's kind of full circle that I'm back to being able to create those systems again, just in a very specific digital environment. But I know that I would not be able to enjoy the process of using Canva without that folder system. So I think it's not only my favorite feature, but probably one of the most overlooked features in the program, because it's not something that you use to create beautiful, sexy images, but it is so foundational to being able to use the product in a really, in an easy, less hustly sort of way, if that makes sense. So I think folders are due a lot more respect than they get.
I love that. Respect the folders.
Respect the folders.
I know. I need to add that. I need to add that in the show notes. I've decided. Respect the folders. That's going to be written down. And remember to get things organised. I love that so much. So, Brenda, we have gone through so much in this episode, and I've learnt a lot, and I'm sure our listeners have learnt a lot as well. But if any of our listeners have got any more questions or they want to find out a little bit more about you, how can our listeners connect with you?
The easiest way is to find us in our Facebook community. If you just go to howtousecanva.com, it'll forward you to the community, or depending on the time you're listening to this, it might send you to a landing page with a link to the community. And at this point, there's close to 7,300 of us in the group.
Wow.
That's kind of my main hub of where, if there is some sort of challenge coming up, I'll share it there. If there's some sort of course coming up, I'll share it there. And you'll find everything that you need probably by going there.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. As I said, it's been a brilliant episode. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Bloggers Creating Courses. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, leave a rating and a review. Ratings and reviews help us to reach more people who want to build and scale their online course. So you're really helping to widen the support for our blogging community. To catch all of the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram @VeritySongon. I'll see you next time. Happy content creating.